New York Times and Bloomberg bury Rutgers study showing DEI makes people hostile. Of course they will bury it. Would you think anything less of the New York Times and Bloomberg? Anything that's antithetical to their propaganda, anything antithetical to their wokeness, they're not gonna report on, of course. So we're gonna talk about it. But before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button. Share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. Has a link to my Patreon. That's where I talk about things that I can't talk about here. There's also a link to my Instagram and my X account, so follow me there as well. All right, so let's get into this news. Now, this comes from Zero Hedge, from Tyler Durden. He reports that corporate media outlets have buried, downplayed, or otherwise shelved the new study which reveals that diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, policies cause people to become hostile, essentially seeing racism where none exists. And anecdotally, I can tell you that that is absolutely true. Absolutely true. But the new study from the Network Contagion Research Institute, NCRI, and Rutgers University found that people exposed to DEI talking points about race, religion, and gender form intergroup hostility and authoritarian attitudes towards others. I mean, haven't we seen that? Haven't we seen that? All these wokesters are the ones that are actually the people that aren't tolerant at all. The woke people, the people pushing DEIs, are some of the most intolerant people you will ever see in your life. If it's not their way and their beliefs, it's the highway. And I'm speaking from experience, from working with clients that's behind this woke stuff, working with colleagues that believe in this woke stuff. It was so pervasive at one time, but thank goodness DEI is starting to die out. It's starting to phase out. This woke stuff is coming to an end. And the majority of the American people is tired of this crap. That's why we voted for Trump. But, quote, what we did was we took a lot of these ideas that were found to still be very prominent in a lot of these DEI lectures and interventions and training, said NCRI Chief Science Officer Joel Finkelstein, a co-author of the study. And we said, well, how is this going to affect people? What we found is that when people are exposed to this ideology, what happens is they become hostile without any indication that anything racist has happened. Wow. Researchers exposed 324 participants to two sets of reading material: a racially neutral text about corn, or the writings of race baiters, Ibram X. Kendi and Robin DiAngelo. Y'all know I've talked about them extensively. The participants were then exposed to a racially neutral scenario in which a student was rejected from college. Those who were exposed to the writings of Kendi and DiAngelo injected racism into the scenario. They always do this. These wokesters always inject racism into things that is not even racist. A lot of these people claim racism, never really truly been through real racism. I grew up in the South, so I've seen real racism, and a lot of these things that they complain about has absolutely nothing to do with racism. It gets worse, as ex-user Cremo notes. Those exposed to DEI weighing to punish the offenders. That's true. That's true. These findings were so shocking and forceful that the authors immediately sought to replicate them. They gathered a nearly 3 times larger study sample. But as Colin writes and of Reality's Last Stand notes, the New York Times and Bloomberg abruptly shelved coverage of the study. The implications of these findings cannot be downplayed. DEI programs have become a fixture in workplaces, schools, and universities across the United States, with a 2023 Pew Research Center report indicating that more than half of U.S. workers have attended some form of DEI training. And they forgot to mention the military. It's pervasive in the military. That's another thing that Trump is trying to get rid of. The institutions collectively spend approximately $8 billion annually on these initiatives, yet the NCRI study underscores how little scrutiny they receive. While proponents of DEI argues that these programs are essential to achieving equity and dismantling systematic oppression, the NCRI's data suggests that such efforts may actually be deepening division and cultivating hostility. Again, I can speak to that as well. When you keep pushing these woke policies in front of people, you're gonna separate people who don't want to deal with this woke stuff from the people that believe in this intrinsic systematic racism stuff. You're gonna be separating and dividing people. But the context makes the suppression of the study even more alarming. The New York Times, which has cited NCRI's work in nearly 20 previous articles, suddenly demanded that the particular research undergo peer review, a requirement that had never been imposed on the Institute's earlier findings. I'm all for peer-reviewed studies, though. I'm all for that. Even on similarly sensitive topics like extremism or online hate. At Bloomberg, the story was quashed outright by an editor known for public support of DEI initiatives. The editorial decisions were ostensibly justified as routine discretion, yet they aligned conspicuously with the ideological leanings of those involved. Are these major outlets succumbing to pressures to protect certain narratives at the expense of truth? Absolutely. Absolutely, that's what's going on. It's obvious that's what's going on. But research cited in the report highlights how many DEI programs rely on untested theories or unverified self-reports with little oversight or accountability. A 2021 meta-analysis found that some initiatives not only failed to reduce prejudice, but actually exacerbated it, fueling resentment and perceptions of unfairness. And this is what I was just alluding to. You're going to end up dividing people even further. But the NCRI study findings echo these conclusions, suggesting that far from fostering inclusion, DEI programs may perpetrate a cycle of suspicion and punitive retribution. Yet, as troubling as the study's findings are, its suppression may be even more consequential. The decision to withhold this research from public discourse speaks to a larger issue, the growing entanglement of ideology and information. We've seen this before. The left this is why the left loves censorship. Anything that's against their ideology, anything that's against their beliefs, they want to suppress. They're not going to release that information. But in a moment when public trust in institutions are already fragile, the media's role as a gatekeeper of information becomes all the more worrying. When powerful outlets like the New York Times and Bloomberg withhold stories such as of such significance, I should say, they fracture trust with the American people. This is why people lost trust in the mainstream media, because of issues like this. But whether you agree with this study or not, if you've been going off of these people for so long and inciting them as a resource, and all of a sudden you stop because you don't like what they're saying, you deserve to lose all credibility. But this is exactly why mainstream media is not trusted anymore. But y'all, let me know what y'all think about this. Leave your comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe. And check out jjthepsychotherapist.com for the latest in news. Until next time, peace.